Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Women Act Cyprus and the Embassy of Sweden in Nicosia, it is our great pleasure to welcome you all to this special event. Today, we gather to highlight and reflect on the critical link between women's empowerment, economic growth, and shared prosperity. Women Act Cyprus is a non-profit organization committed to empowering women and helping them embrace their political, social, cultural, economic and business potential by their active participation in the public sphere. As a network of female leaders and agents of change, we support equal opportunities for all women and men alike. This initiative is proudly supported by Politeia, reflecting Politeia's commitment to advancing women's economic participation and leadership across Cyprus and beyond. Sincere thanks need to be extended to the Ministry of Justice and the Embassy of Sweden for their wholehearted support to our mission. I now call to the floor His Excellency Ambassador of Sweden, Mr. Martin Hagström, for his welcome address.
Thank you very much, and I'm very glad to see so many people here. All of you are warmly welcome, colleagues, civil society, UN, yes. Also people from all over society, exactly as we would have liked it. And especially I'm very happy to welcome the Director General of the Swedish Gender Equality Agency, Lise Tamm, who you will hear more of. Sorry, maybe I should have it more in front of me. Later today, and also of course the other panelists. And I hope this will be a great occasion for an exchange of experiences on both policies and practices in the field of gender equality, because we hope that you will also join in the discussion and ask questions. From the point of view of the embassy, this visit and this event takes place in the framework of the very high priority we attach to gender equality in our foreign policy, and in particular to highlight Sweden's presidency of the Executive Board of the UN Women Agency in 2025. And in this role, in UN Women, Sweden has a special focus on women's economic empowerment, and that, as you know, is also the theme of the event we are having today. Another reason, of course, why this visit happens now is that we find it very useful in the framework of the upcoming Cyprus EU presidency, which is now 88 days away, to discuss EU priorities in the field of gender equality. And we had very good discussions today with various representatives of the government, of course with the Gender Commissioner, Lise Tamm, and other officials. And it's very clear to us that we have many shared priorities, and we look very much forward to continue to develop and work on these issues in the upcoming EU presidency. And I feel also from the discussions today, and I'm sure this will also be true now, that there is a lot that we can mutually learn from each other. Because in Sweden we feel that we have come quite far in the area of gender equality, and that we have some best practices. We have made some mistakes also that we are happy to share. Also including in the area of women's economic empowerment, as you will hear about today. And this is also in particular the work of the Gender Equality Agency, you will hear more about it, to help within Sweden to share the best practices between government agencies, regions and municipalities. So that is on the one hand, but on the other hand we are also very aware that we have many shortcomings still, and we still have a lot to do in this area. And here we have found it already today, and we hope that this event will provide even more opportunities to compare notes on how you are dealing with these issues in Cyprus, where we can learn from you, where you can maybe learn something from us. Once again, warm thanks to Women Act, Politeia, our moderator, Anakoukides Prokopio, the panelists, CVAR, and the Ministry of Justice, and you're all very welcome again.
You. And on behalf of the Minister of Justice and Public Order, Mr. Marios Chartiotis, a welcoming address will be delivered by Christiana Antonoudiou, Officer for Justice and Public Order. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is a great honor to participate in today's event, organized by the Women Act Cyprus Network in collaboration with the Swedish Embassy and with the support of the Politeia think tank on the occasion of Mrs. Lise Tamm's visit to Cyprus. Please allow me to extend a warm welcome to Mrs. Tamm and express my sincere gratitude to Ambassador Martin Hagström for initiating this event. I would also like to thank the founder of Women Act Cyprus and president of Politeia think tank, Mrs. Anakoukides Prokopiou, for her invaluable contribution to promoting gender equality in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of today's event, how empowered women translates to growth and prosperity, could not be more timely. Empowering women is not only a matter of human rights and justice, it is a key driver of economic growth, social development, and sustainable progress. Gender equality is fundamental to competitiveness, democracy, and social cohesion. Societies that invest in women's leadership, education, and full participation in all areas of life thrive economically, socially, and culturally. Over the past years, Cyprus has made significant progress in advancing gender equality. The current government, under the leadership of President Nikos Christodoulides, has prioritized women's rights and equality as central pillars of public policy. Today, women hold 38.8% of ministerial positions, the highest in Cyprus history, and 30% of leadership roles in public legal entities. To support transparency and meritocracy in appointments, an advisory council has been established to ensure equal representation in decision-making positions. A milestone in institutional development was also the formal establishment of the Office of the Commissioner for Gender Equality. Both the National Strategy for Gender Equality 2024 to 2026 and the National Strategy on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women 2023 to 2028 are being implemented in close collaboration with all relevant stakeholders. A new national action plan is also underway for the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security for the period 2026 to 2028. Equally important is the draft legislation prepared by the government to integrate the gender dimension across all public policies. This legislation is to be submitted to the Council of Ministers for approval in the following days. At the same time, combating gender-based violence remains a top priority for the government of Cyprus. Cyprus is fully aligned with the Istanbul Convention, criminalizing all forms of violence and abuse, and has initiated actions to harmonize national legislation with European Directive 1385 of 2024. Notably, femicide is recognized as a standalone offense under national law. Innovative initiatives, such as the establishment of Women's House, a multidisciplinary crisis center, the drafting of victim-centered police protocols for cases of sexual violence, the operation of an emergency panic button for victims of domestic violence, and the creation of specialized police units dedicated exclusively to gender-based and domestic violence further strengthen our national response. Under the National Coordinating Body for the Prevention and Combating of Violence Against Women, operating within the Ministry of Justice and Public Order, frontline professionals regularly receive training while research and awareness campaigns on gender-based violence are continuously conducted. In addition, specific legislation has been enacted to provide free legal aid to victims of gender-based and domestic violence. As we prepare for Cyprus EU Council presidency in 2026, our thematic priority will focus on digitalization and gender inequalities, with particular attention to cyber violence against girls aged 13 to 18. Key initiatives include the commissioning of a Europe-wide study by the European Institute for Gender Equality and the organization of a high-level European conference on preventing and combating cyber violence to be held in Nicosia in May 2026. I would like to take this opportunity to express Cyprus' readiness to collaborate with all our partners in the field of gender equality and the prevention of gender-based violence. Ladies and gentlemen, education and empowerment are also central to the government's vision, which has implemented gender-inclusive curricula and programs that foster leadership among girls and young women to encourage them to pursue careers in traditionally male-dominated fields. Economic empowerment of women is equally critical. Policies to reconcile family and professional responsibilities, reduce the gender pay and pension gaps, and enhance women's digital skills are being implemented. Ladies and gentlemen, empowered women are the foundation of a thriving society. When women are educated and provided with equal opportunities, the benefits extend far beyond individual lives. They translate into stronger economies, more effective governance, and more inclusive communities. Cyprus is determined to continue advancing gender equality at every level, embedding the principles of equality and human rights across all sectors, and ensuring that no one is left behind. As Minister of Justice and Public Order, responsible for gender equality, human rights, and the prevention and combating of gender-based violence, I assure you that Cyprus will continue to act decisively to have gender equality in law, policy, and practice, creating conditions where women can fully participate in every sphere of public, economic, and social life. Thank you very much. I wish every success to your talks and deliberations.
We are particularly honored to welcome Ms. Lise Tamm, Director General of the Swedish Gender Equality Agency, who brings decades of expertise in law, policy, and gender equality. Mrs. Tamm has previously served as Sweden's chief public prosecutor, leading national and international divisions against organized crime, while also chairing a government committee on youth care and social reform. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm the one who's really honored to be at this event and to see so many people here. So, excellencies, dear colleagues, because I think there's some are lawyers who can be considered as colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Swedish government has done, my agency is actually. We are promoting the government's gender equality policies. That's what we do. Very similar to what Josie is doing. In our system, it's an agency that's doing this. And it's been a wonderful day today where we've heard all the steps that Cyprus has done. I'm really impressed and very impressed what you said right now, how you have these, we have a lot to learn from each other. Even if we come very far in Sweden in many ways, we can share our expertise. You have things you can share with us. As I said, like the Swedish government promotes gender equality in all areas of society. In practice, it means a commitment to building a society in which women and men, girls and boys can live their lives their full potential. That's the goal, you know. And so it's human rights we're talking about, and it's a matter of democracy and justice. I often talk about, not just me, we all often talk about this as the Nordic gold. What is the Nordic gold? Well, it's trust and gender equality. And it's important that we've had this for a long time and we've developed this. And it has become a part of our society in many, many ways. And it promotes what we are talking about today, prosperity, innovation, growth, attractive working place. It's important for Europe because it's important for the working market, simply. It attracts high quality jobs too. It's a way of having competitiveness to have gender equality, because we don't use just half of the population, we use 100% of the population. So gender equality is part of the solution to society's challenges, and it's an integral part of a modern welfare state for justice and economical development. So gender equality has been recognized as a separate policy area since the early 70s in Sweden, and since then Sweden has a clear results in terms of high level of employment and growth for women. However, this development didn't happen, by itself. This came with political will and dialogue, and I would say that a very strong civil society and women's movement was really a very strong part of this success. But we've had some reforms that are important that I'm going to stress right now for promoting gender equality that was introduced like 50 years ago, such as individual incomes taxation. That has been important. And the development and expansion of public childcare. It's a key. It's really important to have childcare that's available, that's affordable, and gender-neutral parental benefits. That's also really important, to share the burdens in the family and to take care of the children. Both parents have to do that. Despite these and other important achievements toward gender equality, challenges remain, and there's still work to be done, of course. And we can never actually relax. Even if we've come very far, we still have to continue and never stop. In France, you say, pas baisser les bras. It means don't let your hands go down. You have to continue to fight. Yeah. And for one, women and men must have the same opportunities and conditions for paid work. So that provide economic independence throughout life. That is very important, because if you don't have economic independence, you can't have gender equality, you can't leave a violent marriage, for example. So that's fundamental. And to have this independence, you have to work. You have to be in the working market. So it's so compared to other EU countries, women in Sweden, a large proportion of paid labor force. The highest, I would say some of the highest in Europe. But it's still very common that women work part-time, even in Sweden, especially women with children. And when children are born, it's common that women reduce their work time and they work part-time, while men continue to work full-time. And this increases the gap, the pay gaps, and it is a gender gap that women are working part-time. And the weighing factors such as education, age, profession, and hours of work The gender pay gap between men and women is 4.7% was in 2022. We keep on the statistics, but it always goes a little behind. So I don't know the figures today, but in 22 it was 4.7%, which is low compared to Cyprus, I know, but it still exists. And the older the women are, the larger the gap is. Like for pension, the gap is much larger. One key factor in explaining these income disparities is the gender segregation of the labor market, and you recognize this. This is where are women working, where are men working? I mean, for some reason, gender, I mean, the different occupation, female-dominated sectors have low wages, and male-dominated sectors have much higher wages. And this is why is this? It's because care, taking care of people, all these heat jobs, has lower value. That's as simple as that. And why is that? Well, somebody should explain this, because it's not, it shouldn't be like that. Care is just as important as other things, but it has lower value. And men are more likely to run businesses than women. And additionally, there's a significant difference between women and men in terms of ownership, capital, and different types of businesses. Men also own stocks, property, more to a greater extent than women, and this results in higher capital income. And this also further increases the disparities. But a very important thing is the use of parental benefits. That's also unevenly used, but still, it's 31% of the days are taken by men and 69% by the women. It's a lot more than in most other countries. And the reason why we've succeeded to come that far, it's because 3 months are mandatory for the men, not the men. It's the one who's not taking all the days has to take 3 months, otherwise you lose those days. So in other words, you need measures like this, you need legislation when it comes to because it's not going to come by itself. But it is important that men step up and take more responsibility for the families, for the children, and for the household. Otherwise, it will be impossible for women to be on the working market at the same level. So the Swedish Gender Equality Agency that I lead highlights some important areas to achieve this economic equality. So we need to counteract gender segregated labor market. And that includes not just more women in the STEM work, which is science, technology, etc. We need also more men in the HEAD sector, which is health, education, early childhood development, and domestic and care work. If we had more men there, I think the salaries would go up, for sure. So we need more men to be interested, and it should be normal for a man to work there. It shouldn't be like, oh, are you working there? You know, it's an important job, and it should be valued. This also aligns with the EU roadmap for women's rights, which identify work-life balance and equal employment and opportunities as critical objective for advancing gender equality. And Europe is facing an aging population. We all know that. So we have demographic and economic needs. So we need to fill these occupation with more people. And men are half of the population. So they are needed in this sector, for sure. But in order to facilitate this, we need to broaden study and career choices among girls and boys. So we need to start with school, very low age. Already then, stereotypes are being confirmed, and we need to work with stereotypes. This includes gender equality perspective into account for when designing initiative reforms such as national recommendations, proposal on how to broaden recruitment to welfare jobs, as well as financial and structural support for projects that target gender study and career choices. So We need to work a lot with the educational, all the schools from the very beginning all the way to universities. And it takes collaboration between educational institutions, labor market agencies, and other actors, such as employers, municipalities, to coordinate measures and expand perceptions of possible occupation, to make it talkable, to make it possible in people's mind that it's fine to work as this or that, even if you're a man or a woman. So we need to change these norms on what is considered appropriate to work for men and women. And this includes raising awareness among employers, educational institutions. So we should have that. When you become a teacher, you should be taught gender equality already then, so that you understand how you should teach the kids, so that you don't do stereotypes and tell, when little girls are doing something, oh, you're so nice, and little boys, you don't say anything. I mean, you need to start from the very beginning. So that when you choose your career, you are open-minded, and you choose what you're good at, and not what you're supposed to do just because you're a girl or a boy. So, and when we have occupation where very few men or very few women, they need networks so that they don't feel totally alone, because if they're totally alone, they will leave and do something else after a while. For women, for example, they feel harassed. If they're, for example, plumbers. You don't have many female plumbers in Sweden. You have some and not very many. And so it's a very masculine world. So yeah, they stay for a while, but maybe they don't stay very long, because it gets tough to hear all these stupid jokes all the time. And for men who work in a kindergarten, if they're the only man, it's also very difficult. So you need to have support, you need to have networks for these minorities in the working market. Our Swedish experience also makes a strong case for comprehensive sexual education and access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. That's fundamental also for achieving gender equality. And we have to equip young people with knowledge and skills to make informed choices, and to challenge gender stereotypes and promote equitable opportunities in education and work. In addition, working with men and boys in advancing gender equality is a key. I'm always saying that. The good guys have to step up. They have to make their voices heard. They must be the role models and show the world that, hey, I'm a good guy, and this is how I could be. And I heard you are one of those good guys. Anna told me that you're one of those good guys. So thank you for being here and being a good guy. But I'm sure you're a good guy too. Step up, talk about it, and tell that you're taking care of your kids. And now I have to go home now because I have to pick up my kids. Say it loud so that it becomes normal to do that. So we have to encourage encourage them to take parental leave, to take care and to challenge those traditional occupational norms, and so that we have a more equal society. We need to improve working conditions and work environment in female-dominated occupation. Many women working in the care sector are working, they can't even continue until the pension age because they are totally, they can't sustain, they get sick, they go on sick leave, etc. So because the working environment is not good enough. And to do this, we have to address wages, status, physical conditions, rigid working hours, for example, in the care sector I'm talking about. We also need to actively work against sexual harassment and discrimination in workplaces. And we need to ensure that employers support victims of violence in workplaces, especially this type of domestic violence. The employers should ask questions. We should all ask questions and talk about this. So it's not something secret, something that you're ashamed of. It must be a subject you talk about, because otherwise we will never be able, we won't reveal it, and we won't be able to do anything about it. So to ask questions is important. And finally, we need to analyze reforms that appear to be gender neutral, but in reality they're not. and they impact gender equality in a different way, like tax and pension systems sometimes are not gender equal. We must collect gender disaggregated data. Statistic is so important, and follow up and see what's the outcome to ensure accountability for the policies, that the things we do are the right things. And these measures are reinforced by the upcoming gender equality strategy that we have for 26 to 2030. And this will set the framework for policies promoting economic empowerment, work-life balance, and equitable access to leadership and entrepreneurship opportunities for women. Because economic equality, that's not luxury. I mean, it's a foundation for a strong, fair, more united Europe. And I was talking in the beginning about the Swedish gold. I want to talk about the European gold. What makes Europe so fantastic and so great? Well, it is those things. So we really have to continue to work on gender equality, because this model is unique, and it's really, really important. If we have a strong, fair, more united Europe, we will have these opportunities. We will have this working market that is competitive and attractive, so we will have this innovation and creativity. We've seen when barriers are broken and inequality is addressed, everyone benefits, both men and women. Not just economically, but also socially and democratically. So the road ahead is complex, yes, but by learning from each other, like we're doing now, I've been learning so much today, we can reach the same goal. We can go and achieve changes. So let's choose to be brave, and let's choose policies that uplift, workplaces that include, and economies that work for both men and women. So, because the future of Europe depends on equality of its people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lise Tamm. Definitely we keep that. We need more role models and voices to give the chance. So we will continue with a fireside chat and Q&A session moderated by Mrs. Anna Koukidis Prokopiou, founder of Women Act Cyprus and president of the Politeia think tank. Joining the discussion will be Mr. Michalis Papadopoulos, CEO of Velikor Consulting, and Dr. Marianna Prokopi Dimitriadis, biotech innovator and entrepreneur. Okay, the stage is yours.
You want me here? Okay.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. This was a very important talk, and it's amazing how you managed to pack all these very important points in such a short time during your talk, Liz. But if I may, let me just start by pointing out three important arguments that you made. And you know, when we were going to have this discussion on women economic empowerment, the question is, okay, why are you just talking specifically about economic empowerment? And Liz gave the answer, because if there's no economic empowerment, how can any woman leave gender-based violence in the family? If there is no economic empowerment, how can a woman really run for office? We know that the lack of financial resources is one of the reasons that women hesitate to run for office. Their goals and ambitions are not the priority of the family budget. And then you said something important. You talked about a pay gap.
Yep.
And thankfully in Sweden it's only 4.7, you said. Yeah. In Cyprus I think it's about 15%.
12.
It should be, last time I checked was 15 or 14% anyway, much bigger. And then what is the result of a pay gap? A pay gap results into a savings gap. And the less money a woman has in the bank, in her bank account, the less likely she is to live a relationship which is unhealthy for her and her children. And then if you have a savings gap, because we know that the marginal propensity to consume of women is different from the marginal propensity to consume of men. So if women make extra money, they don't put it away, save it away in the bank. They spend it on the children, they spend it on their household, they're spending on the education, and so on and so forth. And of course, if there is a pay gap, there is a pensions gap. No surprises there that women or the older age group spectrum of employment statistics, they are very near, they have high probability to be on the verge of poverty in Cyprus because the pension is very low, because the pay was very low, and the savings were very low. So I just wanted to make, to underline what Lise has just said, and I will give the floor first to Michalis and then to Mariana for an opening statement, and then we can proceed with a discussion. So Michalis, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good evening, and thank you to Women Act Cyprus and the Embassy of Sweden for bringing us together tonight. I would like to start with a striking reality. We are leaving trillions of dollars on the table. I will repeat it. We are leaving trillions of dollars on the table. McKinsey Global Institute's Power of Parity report found that if women participated in the global economy at the same rate as men, we could add $28 trillion to global GDP. I repeat it, $28 trillion to global GDP, an amount equivalent to the combined economies of the United States and China. This isn't just about fairness or equality, which are, of course, very important and are fundamental. This is about unleashing one of the most powerful yet underutilized drivers of economic growth we have. And I'm wondering why we haven't approached this from this perspective so far. Usually women are presented as if they are complaining and there is a lot of misery or there is an activism there. We are not on the era of women's liberation movement, which added value because of the activism and because of the sensitivity that they have created. Here is what makes this even more compelling. Research from the World Bank shows that when women earn income, that's what Anna said, they reinvest 90% of it back into their families and communities. 90%, compared to just 35% for men. Every dollar invested in women multiplies through better nutrition, healthcare, and education for the next generation. Women aren't just participating in the economy, they are transforming it. Yet, look at the barriers that we have built. According to PitchBook's 2023 data, women entrepreneurs receive only 2% of venture capital funding, only 2%, despite the research from Boston Consulting Group showing that they generate 78 cents in revenue for every dollar invested, 78 cents for every dollar invested, compared to just 31 cents for male-founded startups. I have to say that we are not just being unfair, but we are being economically irrational. Economically irrational. McKinsey & Company has documented that companies with women in executive positions showed 21% higher profitability. 21% higher profitability. Meanwhile, World Bank research reveals that violence against women costs some countries up to 3.7% of their GDP. More than double what they spend on education. And according to the ILO, the unpaid care work that women perform globally, which corresponds to 76% of all such work, is worth $10.8 trillion annually, more than 3 times the size of the global tech industry. These aren't abstract numbers. They represent real women, real families, and real opportunities that we are missing every single day. But here is the exciting part. The latest gender snapshot from UN Women shows that just closing the digital gender gap alone could add $1.3 trillion to global GDP by 2030 and lift 30 million women out of poverty. 30 million women out of poverty. We know what works. Countries that have prioritized gender equality, like Sweden, haven't just become fairer. They have become more prosperous, more innovative, and more resilient. Another subject which I had the chance to discuss with Anna is the perception of equality like infrastructure. I mean, if we see equality as infrastructure, like roads, energy, or technology, it becomes clear that without it, no society can compare effectively in the global economy. Okay, so consider equality as infrastructure. And maybe we can discuss this later. Empowerment is therefore not an extra, it is a foundation of national strength, social stability, and shared prosperity. Now, another thing that we hear usually, if we talk about women empowerment, I'm finishing in 1 minute, then we hear the word meritocracy. Okay, and what I say is that ensuring real meritocracy requires systemic reform, systems and structures and processes that induce desired behaviors. A false meritocracy where people claim success is based on merit while inequalities persist is dangerous because it hides discrimination behind the illusion of fairness. So tonight we are here to discuss not why this matters, the evidence is overwhelming, but how we accelerate this transformation. How do we move from knowing what's right to doing what works? How do we make Cyprus and the broader region leaders in women's economic empowerment? At the current pace, and this is very important, it will take 134 years to reach gender parity. Well, we cannot afford to wait that long, not for our daughters, not for our societies, and not for our economies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mariana, the floor is now yours.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here tonight. For me, economic empowerment of women begins with something very, very simple, but I think very powerful, that every voice in general must be heard, especially in science, in healthcare, in business, but also in policy making. When certain voices are missing, we don't just lose representation, but we lose opportunities for innovation, growth, but also impact. My background is in biotechnology and life sciences, where I have co-founded 3 biotech ventures. We develop cancer therapeutics, biomaterials, but also supportive skincare solutions for oncology patients. And what I have seen again and again is that innovation happens when diverse perspectives come together. And when women scientists and entrepreneurs are given a seat in the table, they bring insights, but also they reshape healthcare, open new markets, and most importantly, improve patients' lives. This is why I believe that empowerment women is not only the right thing to do, but also an economic strategy that drives prosperity for our societies. And just as individuals need representation, women also need communities. Communities that mentor, support, and also we lift each other up. Because when women innovate with impact, they don't just build companies. We build ecosystems, we build role models, and we build prosperity that belongs to all of us. And I will close with something really, really personal, is that in biotech, innovation is often born from lived experience, and my own journey was shaped by losing my father and sister to cancer. I was a carer for them for many, many years, and that gave me the determination to build patient-first solutions. Women bring those lived experiences with them. They bring them into research and entrepreneurship, and that leads to innovations that they are more holistic, more humane, and ultimately more impactful for the society. And I think tonight one clear message for me is that empowerment begins when every voice is heard, and especially in healthcare, it means that listening to the patients, the families, everybody that has a need, is to give equal access to resources, but also trust. So I think I'm looking very, very forward to the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Mariana, I'd like to start first from a question posed to you. You were in the care industry. You worked for the oncology center, which maybe wasn't so strange for a woman to be seen working with cancer patients. And then you decidedly made the leap into biotech. Not only biotech as in STEM, where women are not that prominent, but you were the founder of the second startup in Cyprus, doing something very innovative that people didn't really believe in, and it was quite difficult to find the money to do it. So what is the secret of your success? I mean, if we want to exchange best practices, because this is what we're trying to do here, what is your own personal experience that you would like to share with the audience? What got you going and what got you here?
You hit me deep inside now. Yeah, so it was 10 very difficult and challenging years, I will not lie, because as we are part of the Southeast Europe, unfortunately we don't have the ecosystem to support startup innovation. Nowadays we are in a much better era, but 10, 15 years ago when I first started, it was really, really difficult. First of all, I had to build the trust within my own family, because once you say that I quit my job and I quit from, a salary, then emergency and alarms are hitting in the household. So first I had to convince my husband to believe that a woman in Cyprus can transform healthcare and build her own company out of nothing. But I have a lot of support from my mother-in-law. I lost my mom when I was really young, so she was my only person that I could, share my dreams. And she was the one that said, Mariana, don't worry about the children, don't worry about, the household. I'm here for you because I can see your vision, and I'm here to help you. So I think to have a mentor, a woman, a family person, being then, back you up is really, really important. And I had also a male co-founder that was the one that said, Mariana, believe in your ideas, we can do this. I know it's difficult, but slowly, slowly we can find people to, believe and also invest. It was really, really difficult. The first people that invested in our companies were family and friends, and I think they thought that we were two crazy people trying to save the world, and maybe they got a little bit, romantic about my story as well, that, even if nothing comes out from, this endeavor, at least we did something good in cancer, but here we are, and now we are exporting internationally, and I'm very proud to say that we have Cypriot scientists. We are 85% of women scientists in the companies, and we have Cypriot products out there, and people know about our little island. And we're trying to change also the face of this island, that we can produce innovation, and innovation that comes from true care. And we are an amazing, I think, testing environment. We are like a phone call away from the patients. And if you see my phone, it's full of messages from people that, they want to say thank you, and they prove to you that what you do, it's not only about, money and building, an economic empire. It's about, giving something back to society. And for me, this is very beautiful.
Wow.
Lise, you also changed positions from being a quite tough chief prosecutor to taking over the gender agency. And the question is, what could you bring to the job from your previous experience? What was your secret in doing things in your current position?
I don't need a microphone, maybe. I don't know. It's thank you for the question. First of all, I'm really touched by your story, and I think it's so important what you said. Excuse me for not answering. I think what you said about getting support and network is crucial. One thing I would like to add when it comes to growth and believing in women is that the financial sector, banks, must trust that we are going to succeed. And then I go back to what you said, that all the money invested when women start something, it really goes back. It's not being spent on tobacco and alcohol or whatever. It is being spent in the family and to the growth of the business. And it is more difficult for women to get loans, and investors don't believe in women. They're wrong, because women are a little more careful. They're not as courageous maybe, but they really pay their loans. They pay back, so that you don't lose your money if you invest in a woman. That's a very important point to make, and I wish if anybody works in a bank or have connections to bank, tell them that if you invest in women, you'll get your money back. If you invest in men, sometimes yes, sometimes not. Well, now I'm going to go back to your questions. To be honest, when we're also talking about discrimination and age. I got this new job when I was like 63. So who could say no to this opportunity to do what my interest and also get paid for it? So it was what I'm doing. It almost not feels like a job. It's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in human rights. I became a prosecutor because I wanted to work with human rights, and I'm just continuing to work with human rights in this field. I've been working with gender equality my whole life, since I was a little girl living in Paris and thinking it was not just girls and boys were not treated the same way, and I was very angry about that. And it started there, and I've continued, and I'm never going to stop. I think I'll do to the end of my life. And what I'm bringing in is not being afraid of saying what I think, and always thinking that no, it's not impossible. It is possible to see, not to say no, but to say yes, and to see the possibilities and not just the obstacles. We have obstacles, but we have to see the possibilities. So, and I have experience with all that concerns, domestic violence, human trafficking. Also, I've been working with this. But I'm learning a lot too in this new agency. For me, this new job, and it's much broader since we're working with health, with education, with democracy, with all sorts of questions. So it's, I'm learning and I'm bringing.
You put an important point on the table, is that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. That was a question I got asked when I used to be the Minister of Justice and human rights was under my jurisdiction. They would say, why are you doing gender? And I said, because I'm doing human rights. And you know, it's the obvious. And I thoroughly enjoyed it because there's a long way to go. But going back to Michalis, I mean, Michalis, you gave us all these numbers, and I'm glad you did, because you put a new you offered a fresh perspective to this discussion that is, okay, of course, it's not fair where there is inequality. It is a matter of justice. It is a matter of equal rights. But sometimes, usually the men in the audience need the numbers to convince them. And you made a very convincing case. You know, giving hard evidence, as a chief prosecutor would say, you know, to make the point that it pays to promote gender equality. You used to be, you used to have important positions in very big organizations like the Cyprus Telecommunications Authority, Aredeo Hospital, which is one of the most well-known healthcare institutions in Cyprus. Now you're running your own business and you're doing transformational leadership and management and restructuring. So what do you actually tell your clients? And what have you done in the positions of power that you had? Can you give us some examples of practical ideas? I think he's got a mic. Oh, you have got, okay, yes.
You're wide.
Well, I had the opportunity to work in two very vibrant organizations where... Yes, probably.
I think, yeah.
Okay. I said that I was very lucky to work with two very important organizations. Cyprus Telecommunications Authority, which was the incumbent telecoms provider, and preparing for the opening of the market, we redefined our purpose. Our purpose was to redesign Cyprus, beginning with city. Okay, and this is where we had the chance to talk about all of this, because my first degrees are engineering. You know, I'm an engineer, and we have a method of system thinking. You know, so it was very clear that by closing the gap, you know, and giving the chance to women participate in the decision-making table, and in CVAR we had a lot of women in that. You just have access to talent, you know, and of course women, you know, I have great respect because they always have the greatest ideas, you know, and I truly believe it, you know. And nowadays, if you have a panel of men, they are very good in brainstorming. In other words, finding different solutions to the same problem. I have to admit that at Aredeo, I've been using a lot of colleagues, female colleagues, to follow what Harvard nowadays says, framestorming. In other words, let's redefine the problem, looking from a different perspective, so that we can solve it in a faster way. For example, one of my clients, you know, recently was selling furniture, and they have done a research which showed that 8 out of 10 clients say that their furniture was expensive, you know. And then when we sat around, and the leader of that company is a female, she said, why don't we do focus groups, qualitative research, to find out why they are saying this. And when we have done it, we have realized that the perception of the quality of the furniture by the society, it was that it wasn't as good as they thought. Actually, they said, that when we have done the focus groups, people said that furniture is a sofa with a thick leg, And this was Swedish, Danish thing. And then, so what they were telling us is that for the perception of the quality of the products, we think that you are very expensive. So she drove the discussion and she said, why don't we change the perception of the quality? And we have done, and we have increased the price. Okay, so I am very respectful to the approach and the fact that, of course, women are much more, they have empathy. They always put their shoes in the position of others. And I think that the dominant power in European politics, and the decision makers are very rational people. So when we approach the women's empowerment from the very rational points that we have discussed earlier, I think it's very easy to convince them. And that's why when I spend time, I spend a lot of hours on this, because I like the subject. I was wondering why so far, at least what the opinions that I was listening to were not concentrating on these very practical statistics, that are very easy to connect to and to understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I must say, I don't know if Michalis remembers this, because he mentioned diversity in decision making, diversity in groups, trying to break the group thing, all men, trying to resolve an issue in the same way. And this is how we met. Like 10 years ago, I interviewed you for a project we were doing on gender diversity in decision-making positions. So he was one of the 10 men we chose because he was doing very innovative things with CETA as far as gender is concerned. So I have to mention it. I've monopolized enough the questions, so now it's the time for you, the audience, to take over with any questions or comments you'd like to pose to our three panelists. Anyone? Yes, Magda. Could you please identify your name, identify yourself, your name and your position, so that the audience is familiar?
My name is Magda Zell, and I'm a woman peace and security expert. My question is quite basic to the woman. I want to know more about what your startup was about, because you spoke about it, but I didn't hear details of what you actually did.
Yes.
It would be nice to know more details about it.
Yes, we have 3 startups. The first one has a worldwide patent on microRNA therapeutics for cancer. Now we are in the phase that we are doing GMP manufacturing of the drug in order to submit for IND and ask for permission to do clinical trials phase 1 in humans. The second, we are working on biomaterials for bioprinting of artificial organs. We work a lot with companies in South Korea, US and Germany, where they try to bioprint lymphatic nodes, especially for women that they had a mastectomy and they develop lymphedema. So now instead of replacing with lymphatics from other parts of the body, you can bioprint your own lymphatic system and replace it. This is already in the market. And the third one, that it's a company that I co-founded in the memory of my sister. She had many side effects from the cancer therapy on her skin. burns from radiation therapy, blisters from chemotherapy. So after a few months after she died, we created RSL, where we have products now in the market in order to prevent these side effects, prepare the skin, and improve the quality of life, because unfortunately, now cancer becomes a chronic disease, and we try, to save the patient, but we don't look about quality of life and how we can improve day to day, simple things for them. And spending 2 years with my sister, seeing a beautiful young lady ending up, on a wheelchair, and having so many difficult problems. These are where the ideas and the innovation comes in place. So now we are exporting in 12 regions, and we created a manufacturing. So we have a Cypriot manufacturing instead of going over in Asia into production there. We created the infrastructure here in Limassol. So it's very difficult, I will not lie. It's, when you see the payroll at the end of the month, it's like, okay, I'm not going to get paid this month, maybe the next one. But, we try to keep the team and, improve and actually try to keep what we have created, so, with so many challenges.
Wow.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Someone at the back, and then we come to you.
Hi, I'm Christiana, I'm a lawyer. First of all, I want to say to Mariana, I'm so impressed by what the companies are doing. Very, very impressive indeed. I have a question to people who are in Cyprus. Discussion about gender equality has been an ongoing one. I remember we did a project 20 years ago on gender equality. Do you think we're progressing?
I think so, yes. I think so because even in business, there is a lot of awareness about empathy. And instead of, entrepreneurs used to like Aristotle of the tangible world of reality. A lot of entrepreneurs now love Plato, like myself, who is the, who loves the invisible world of ideas. And people are very aware of the value of empathy, of going beyond rational things, And, excuse me? Exactly. And the dynamics of having women participating in the decision-making table, is amazing. It's a very practical one. I have to make a comment though. When my wife pursued politics and theater, I took on more at home, It wasn't sacrifice, it was partnership. It was partnership. Because when men share caregiving, it frees women to lead. And this is how we change the balance both at home and in society. And my latest experience with businesses is that they know that the stepping stone towards profitability is enriching the table with many women. And I'm very optimistic about it. And I will be a pioneer in promoting this idea. I started actually on my LinkedIn account, a campaign since yesterday,
Okay.
But only women liked it,
Ambassador, yes, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you to the panel for sharing your reflections. I'm Sarah Hamilton, I'm the Irish ambassador here in Nicosia. Mariana, I also want to say thank you for inspiring us here this evening. What I find particularly impressive is that you're sharing your story and you're taking time to be on these panels to show that it is possible. And I'm presuming you're a very busy woman, but it's important that we show the next generation of young girls that there are examples there of where women have been successful and are succeeding in life. So that's really very important and commendable as well. I had a question actually for Lise. You mentioned about the need to bring it into the education system, to challenge gender biases from a very young age, make sure that their kids are taught as young as kindergarten, etc. But we're in a different world these days where children and young people get their influences from elsewhere, online primarily. And we're seeing a big pushback at the moment on gender issues online. I just wondered if you have any plans with your role on the executive board of UN Women to address this issue, and how do we continue to sustain that political buy-in in gender equality when it's being challenged and we're seeing a lot of pushback at the moment?
Thank you for putting this question. It is really a priority. I know it's going to be a priority for Cyprus, for the presidency, and it's a priority for Sweden, and for me too. You're totally right. And children very early are indoctrinated by social media, and boys are watching violence and pornography, and girls are watching also really bad things for them. So we need to do something about it, and it's not so easy. You can't do that. One country can't do that by themselves. We need to unite. So and I know there are, initiatives being put on the EU level, but it's outside of EU. I mean, TikTok is Chinese. Some of the other ones, Instagram and so on, is American. So we really need to find solutions. And it's not easy because I know France, for example, stopped Pornhub, and then it's just 24 hours later it started from some other corner. So we need to find solutions. But what we can do already now every day is, first of all, before children have their iPhones or digital, well, they're already there. Little boys need to learn that it's okay to show your feelings and learn how to verbalize feelings, so that we can start from very early age at kindergarten, for example. When they get a bit older, parents do have a big responsibility. But you have, I know Australia is here, the ambassador of Australia was here? Yes. And you have done something very interesting, and of course we're going to follow the results and how it's, what happens and how easy it is to just backrun it. We don't know yet, but
Social media.
Yes, I'm talking about social media, access to social media. We need to do something about it, that's for sure. And the pushback is real because of this, because children are being indoctrinated. And so they shouldn't be on social media as much. They spend too much time. And what we've seen in research is that boys, especially boys, are spending so much time that they don't even interact with other children. So they don't learn empathy because they never play with other children. They're just sitting there on these, and the result is that they don't have any friends. The girls feel bad mainly, but at least still have friends. But for boys, this is a real issue for boys too. So it's a gender equality issue for both boys and girls. It's really important to remember that. So we need to do something. I don't have all the solutions, but since 100% of the population will think about it, I'm sure we'll find solutions. And but I don't have the solutions. We just have to work together and always talk about this and try to force those companies, the platforms, we need to be able to stop this because TikTok, Chinese children, they don't see this for some reason because it's a dictatorship. They can stop it. We can't because we have freedom of speech, which we want to keep. I want to be clear about that. So we need to find other solutions to stop this indoctrination.
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting discussion that Sharon had from the UN. I'd be interested to get the panel's perspectives. Many of you have spoken about the gender occupation, the gender gap in different occupation
Okay, intersectionality. Shall I start with Lise? Yes?
Sure.
There you go.
Yes, you're totally right. This is a very big challenge, and we are struggling with this in Sweden too. I would say Sweden used to be a very homogeneous country, and for the last, I don't know how many years now, but still not as many years as other, like Great Britain or France, who've had colonies. We're not homogeneous anymore, and people coming from abroad, it's both migrants, but it's also asylum seekers, come from all over the world. So of course we have, for example, recently people coming from Ukraine. They adapt very quickly, they're well educated. But we also have people coming from Somalia, for example, who are, most of them are refugees, and where the education level is really low. And we have you need to have specially tailored programs for, you can't just say migrants in general or asylum seekers in general. Tailored support programs and for the groups where you have some knowledge about the group, so that you use the right tools so that they can enter the labor market, and you have to see what can they what are their qualities instead of what they don't know, what they can't do, you have to focus on what the possibilities and not just obstacles. But it is difficult, because in Sweden we have very few simple jobs. Most jobs, even what we would think is a simple job, requires at least high school education. So it's really difficult, and we have a big unemployment in Sweden compared to what we should have if you just compare us to Denmark, for example. And it is mostly those vulnerable groups who haven't entered the working market. So we definitely, and so we need to focus on the possibilities, help them to make businesses. So I think small businesses, big businesses too, if you can dream, but entrepreneurship, all this, to see the possibilities. I think they have better possibilities there, but then banks need to dare to invest and believe in these projects. So it's a very important issue, and it's important for all of Europe, because many European countries have faced the same challenges with not enough simple jobs, and with the population that needs to have these jobs, but also we lack of people too. So it's we lack engineers, we lack technicians. So it's a strange situation where we have unemployed people and we lack of workers. So it's
Mariana, this is please.
I think we can draw examples from the United States where, if I remember correctly, until late 60s or early 70s, there was a practice which was called redlining, in the sense that the banks were not lending money to people where African Americans and Hispanics were living, etc. I mean, it was not only attitudes or habits by the people, but they have institutionalized inequality through the banks and other financial institutions. So what I suggest is that once inequality is systemic, reform should be systemic. Okay, so and we need a lot of effort on that. I strongly believe that policies are not good enough. I mean, it's a first step, but we just pay lip service. You said earlier that nothing can be done by itself. You know? So we have to, I mean, in businesses, where you say that we have to change our culture and then we can reach that. This is thin air. What is important is that there should be thoughtful leadership which takes initiatives to introduce systems and structures and policies and regulation and laws which create desired behaviors. Otherwise, culture doesn't change, Habits change, and habits, when there is these systems and structures and services, create desired behaviors. This is the only way. And I think I'm very willing to participate in such an initiative.
Excellent.
I will add a point,
yes.
sorry, because I'm not part of the, policy-making institution, but as an individual, I'm part of the Falling Walls Foundation, that now we run a program under Elsevier Foundation and UNESCO for female science talents. So initially we had, a pool of female scientists from either the US and Europe. Now we expanded all over the world, and now it's the third year that we're running this program. So we mentor individuals that we follow up year after year, and I'm so happy that I was in London last week and I met one of these people coming from a country in Africa, and now she has a great position in Imperial College. And when you see, that slowly foundations and teams and networks, we are working a lot with individuals, and we give our personal time, and you see these results within 3-4 years. It's very, very nice. And with Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa now, we are working via a female health application. And it's not just, a marketplace. We try to educate women and get consultations from medical professionals, and also they try, to build a community, how we can either prevent cancer or, care about the community. So, yes, in policy making and changing things, but as individuals, I'm pretty sure that we can find, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour per week to give from our own time and, create a change. So a little bit, that will help.
Well, it's never a little bit, I would say. Unfortunately, we only have time for one last question, which needs to be quick because there's a lovely reception hosted by the Swedish Embassy waiting for all of us. So one last question, Stefanos, yes.
Hello, and thank you very much for this excellent discussion, organization of the event by the organizers. My name is Stefanos, and I'm the president of Cyprus Youth Diplomacy. My question refers to gender quotas, actually. So there was a judgment of the Supreme Court of the Republic back in 2016 by reference of the President of the Republic stating that basically positive discrimination is still discrimination, and basically, very briefly, the law was passed by the Parliament and it made mandatory basically making 1/3 of the management boards of public bodies be women, basically. So the President then referred the law passed by the House to the Supreme Court and considered it in violation of Article 28 of our Constitution, which guarantees the equality of everyone. And so I would like to hear from you, as a former public prosecutor, whether you had similar cases in Sweden, as far as you're aware, maybe, and if yes, what was the approach there? Because, in my opinion, it is very problematic seeing the head of your country basically referring a law and considering it unconstitutional when it comes to basically guaranteeing the equality and the empowerment of women in public bodies. And secondly, of course, the Supreme Court itself found it a violation of the Constitution, and then basically the law was found no. So.
Yeah. Before I give the floor to Liz, I have to use a disclaimer because I was one of the 5 women who had the initiative to lobby Parliament to come up with the legislation and lobby Parliament to get it passed. And basically the legislation said that the government should appoint 1/3 of either gender at the board of directors of semi-governmental bodies. And we thought it was a beginning, it was a stepping stone, so it could set the right example. So this is a country whose constitution is quota-based, let me remind you. Everything in the constitution is based on an ethnic quota between the Turks of Cyprus and the Greeks of Cyprus. This is exactly the terminology the constitution says. And gender quotas in a country where ethnic quotas are defining were deemed unconstitutional. And we lost that battle. But then, just to wrap it up, we lost the battle at the Supreme Court, but then President Anastasiadis did appoint 30% of women at semi-governmental bodies. And it's a story, I can say this story. And Nikos Christodoulidis called me, he was the government spokesman back then. He says, stop tweeting about this, okay? We've done it. Anastasiadis has appointed 30% women. So obviously, that was not, we need though the institutional, the legislation, the change to be driven by law, not at the whim of someone who decides to do you a favor and appoint women on boards. I had to say this story.
Otherwise I wouldn't understand.
Yes.
No.
So, what is your opinion? And then I will have like a very brief concluding remark from Mariana and Michalis, and then we can have some well-deserved wine.
It's difficult to answer. Thank you for giving the background. It is, quotas is always complicated. On the other hand, when it comes, for example, for parliament, it was a political party in Sweden that started deciding we're going to do every other, we're going to do the zip, every, is a woman, every man, and all the other political parties did the same. So this automatically became part of our parliament, for example, which was very, very good. So you can take initiatives, and this was not disputed. But I know that when it comes to higher education, I know, for example, because so many girls have so much better grades than boys, there was a case some years ago now, maybe 10 years ago, I'm not sure about the time, where they tried to quote boys into, I think, medical school, which is extremely attractive, because there were not enough men. And that was found illegal. Because the girls had better grades and they should be able to enter, because we have meritocracy and we can't. But it is complicated. So you need to use methods. I think what we used in the parliament was a very good method. It was the political parties themselves who decided that, so they didn't need any legislation. But sometimes you do need legislation, but you cannot discriminate either. So it's not easy, and I don't have a good solution. No, I can't give you a solution.
Well, Michalis, your concluding remarks. I hope you have something positive.
I have my cheat sheet here.
Okay.
So what I say is that empowering women isn't a cost, it is an investment with extraordinary returns. The opportunity is massive, we know what works, the time to act is now. But I also have something else to say. To the policymakers in the room, champion legislation that removes barriers and creates opportunities. To the business leaders, invest in women entrepreneurs, diversify your leadership, close your pay gaps, not because you have to, but because it's smart business. To the educators and civil society, continue building the pipelines that prepare girls and women for the opportunities ahead. And to everyone here, become champions in your own spheres. Thank you so much.
Mariana.
I had my paper here, but I don't think that I'm going to use it. I think very personal statement is that I think that we all here have one voice. We are all humans, and I think we are here and we need to find our purpose and to be useful to one another. And even though we have one voice, unfortunately this voice is not heard equally. So we need to create communities, networks, educate boys, girls, everybody, because what we do now, it's gonna give up and add value in the future. So I think collectively and from a very, very small country like Cyprus, I think we could be an excellent example of how we can listen easy and fast to each other and create a huge change, but not in 138 years as you calculated, but maybe a little bit faster. And I think because we are very proactive and we want to create a change, I think we can easily do it, hopefully. Thank you. Here.
We close our evening by inviting you to join us for networking reception, a chance to keep the conversation going, connect with one another, and enjoy a selection of Swedish-inspired dishes.